What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, or you're watching our college football channel. It's time for the playoff eliminator as we head into week 6 of the 2023 college football season. We'll start with all the eliminations that were already done. We already eliminated all these teams, and I do want to apologize to Rutgers fans. I accidentally had them in the eliminated category last week. I guess in my head I thought they had lost their second game. I don't know why I thought that, but Rutgers only has one loss, so they have not been eliminated, in case you were wondering about that. But all these teams have been eliminated, and then you look at the new eliminations this week. We've got Arizona, Auburn, Colorado, NC State, TCU, and UCF. So how about TCU going to the national championship last year, and now they're eliminated as we head into the month of October. So very disappointing season for TCU, obviously. No one else here really was a contender. I don't guess TCU really was a contender for most people, but I think there are some that maybe thought they could have a good season this year and get to 9 or 10 wins, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. We'll see, but I think they definitely are not making the college football playoff. NC State, sometimes people think they might be a dark horse, but again, all these teams really had no chance anyways. We haven't really eliminated any of the top contenders. And there are actually a couple of two-loss teams that I'm not going to eliminate. But let's start with the unbeaten teams. So this is what we have left. Teams that are still in the running. Unbeaten: Florida State, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisville, Maryland, Miami, Michigan, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Oregon, Penn State, Texas, USC, Washington, and Washington State. Biggest surprise here, probably Washington State. I would say Maryland, Louisville, but they haven't really played anybody, so I'm not really surprised that those teams are undefeated. But yeah, for the most part, no real surprises here. I know a lot of people were surprised that Texas beat Alabama, but that's something that I actually predicted in the preseason. So I'm not really surprised here with any of these teams. We will see at least one of them go down this week as Oklahoma plays Texas. I'm trying to think if there are any other undefeated teams that play each other. I know we're going to have some coming up very soon. Washington, Oregon will be playing soon. And so, well, Ohio State, Maryland this week. So Kentucky, they will not. We'll have LSU, Missouri. Kentucky will play Georgia. Yeah, Kentucky, Georgia there. So there will definitely be some new teams come off of the unbeaten line here. But how about the one-loss teams that are still alive? Alabama, BYU, Duke, Iowa, Kansas, Kansas State, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Oregon State, Rutgers, Syracuse, Tennessee, Texas A&M, UCLA, Utah, Wake Forest, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. I think all Power 5 teams, if they have just one loss, they're still alive. Unless, I did eliminate some one-loss teams because they lost to Group of 5 teams. I think I would have to go back and look, but I feel like all those teams that lost to a Group of 5, they've all lost 2 games now anyways, so that no harm there. But again, a couple of teams that I think are still alive. I'm not ready to eliminate them just yet because I see a realistic path for them to get to the college football playoff, and that's Florida and LSU. So no, that's not what we're doing here. We're not just automatically eliminating the 2-loss teams. For the most part, you lose 2 games and you're eliminated. But I think for Florida and LSU, there is still a path. So it seems very, very unlikely for Florida just because I don't think they're that good. I think LSU has more potential. But for Florida, you need Kentucky to go 10-2. You need them to lose to Georgia and Alabama, which is very, very reasonable. That could happen. I don't know if they can beat everyone else on their schedule, but 10-2 for Kentucky. Obviously, they're still going to be ranked pretty high. And then you need Florida. If you're Florida, you need them to beat Georgia. And then you're going to have Georgia lose somewhere. Let's say Ole Miss upsets Georgia or something. So you got to have Georgia at 10-2. Actually, no, you don't. I take that back. Georgia 11-1 because their only loss would be to Florida. Florida, with one of those losses coming in the non-conference, would still go to the SEC championship in that scenario. And if they win the SEC with 2 losses, one of those losses coming to a 10-2 Kentucky, and let's say Utah wins the Pac-12, you lose to the Pac-12 champion on the road week 1, and then you have a win over Georgia, you have a win over LSU, a win over Florida State at the end. So there is absolutely potential for Florida. Again, I don't know that it's going to go that way. I don't think it's going to go that way, but it could. And then for LSU, it's kind of similar here. So you need Florida State to run the table, go undefeated, be a college football playoff team. And then you need Ole Miss to go 10-2, just like with Florida. You need Kentucky to go 10-2. You need Ole Miss to go 10-2. You need LSU to win out, Alabama finishes at 11-1. LSU finishes at 10-2, but LSU has the head-to-head victory there. LSU goes to the SEC championship. They knock off potentially an undefeated Georgia team. So there are paths, realistic paths for both of these teams. I don't know that either one of them is going to happen. I'll just go ahead and say I'm not going to predict either of those things to happen, but it's not that far-fetched. And yes, technically there may be some other two-loss teams that if things go exactly right could possibly get back into this conversation. I just don't see a realistic path, anything that could actually happen. And that's why we've eliminated those teams. We'll bring teams back from the dead if we have to. If I see that path open up, if we see a way for them to get in, then maybe. Right now, it feels like a two-loss team has no chance just because there are so many good teams this year. And you feel like there are going to be at least 4 teams with 1 loss or undefeated. But it could happen. You never know. We'll see how things go the rest of the season. So now we get to the playoff picture. And I think it still kind of looks like this. Georgia seems to be the favorite. Then you got Michigan, Ohio State. The winner of that game seems to be the favorite for the number 2 spot. And then Florida State, Texas, they're the favorites in their conferences. If one of them, so if they both were to win out, then you'd have one slide to the 4 line, 1 at 3, and there's your playoff. But if a spot opens up, if some of these teams do get eliminated, I think USC, Washington, and Oregon, those are the front runners of the Pac-12. They would be next in line. And then Penn State, keep an eye on Penn State. Even perhaps an 11-1 Penn State that does not go to the Big Ten Championship. They could get in that way, or you never know. They might get in if they win the tiebreaker. So I'm still keeping an eye on the Nittany Lions there as well. That is the updated playoff picture. Would love to get your thoughts. Let me know how you think it's going to play out, and what's been the biggest surprise for you so far? The biggest surprise as far as eliminations go, or contenders that have kind of emerged. Let me know your thoughts on the playoff picture down in the comments below.